time for another episode of Off the Record, On the Rocks. Join Michael Toner and Ankarino Lara and break down the latest news on all things Web3, AI, metaverse, and crypto, filtering out noise and connecting dots as we pour ourselves into the future.
I got my lucky ears on today because not only am I feeling playful, but in the eclipse, it's really fun. If you go out under trees, at least in California, because it's like 30-40%, the tree creates shadows that are crescents, kind of these fun little like wavering scallop crescents. When I see that, think two things. Number one, I want to invest in crypto because that's lucky, seeing those crescents just shaking like that. And everyone seems like they're really piling in because it was kind of like we were sideways moving a lot those last couple of weeks or so during spring break. I think everyone was just out spring breaking and they forgot about crypto. And then someone woke up this morning and said, the eclipse is coming. Oh, by the way, the halving is coming in a few more days too. Those two things were kind of coinciding closely. And everyone starts buying again. Bitcoin's up, markets are up. Even Solana, which is a blockchain that we talk about often, right? A lot of NFT projects and game projects on Solana, they had like outages left, right, and center these last few days. Didn't affect the price. Keeps going up. And one side of it's the crypto story as we head to the halving out of this eclipse. The other side is the acceleration of AI for me and the way of editing images and videos using AI now is so easy, gotten so easy and so accessible to the average person that when they talk about all these lengths that Meta is going to prevent synthetic political content from appearing and misinformation and whatever, I think this election cycle on top of all this is going to be so outrageous in terms of the kind of news we're going to be pitched that it's going to be so hard to differentiate whether it's even remotely true or not, like remotely true. That to me is a big story.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we saw this coming. We've seen this. We've all been groomed for this flood of content and trying to figure out what's real or not. And there was the picture of Joe Biden in the back of the truck that Trump like tweeted out. Like there's like this little drip now happening. We heard the phone call from Joe Biden. We covered it here on the show from a couple months ago. The like robocalls with the fake voice. So you think about the ability to fake a voice. You've got Sora, the ability to fake an image or fake a video. DALL-E. It's accessible now to anyone to create anything at any time. And this is where I come back around to, and I don't know where I saw this coined, but what is AI's truth layer? Every network, every new technology inherently has to build in some sort of trust-based system into it. Even if we're talking about money, we're talking about government. We've got democracy. There's a trust-based system. It's some system, whether it can be trusted or not. It's left up to you. But what is AI's trust layer? And there isn't one right now. And you do have to question everything that you see. The scams are going to be outrageous. I mean, you can make anything and put it in front of somebody in real time, and they will believe it to be true. It will, in fact, be true. It will have been AI generated in the moment with your idea. And what is going to be the truth layer to that? I really feel bullish about blockchain technologies. We got a lot to get to. I'm going to lay out a couple other things. Ripple CEO, Ripple coming out talking about new stable coins. So when we talk about new systems and new technologies, and he's predicting that crypto market's going to go to 5 trillion by the end of 2024. Like, I don't know. Do we even debrief? I forget from the last episode, debrief from my Coinbase session downtown. I think we did.
We might have. Go back and listen. We've been on spring break, still not crazy, but there's that. And then, like you said, like stable coins, Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, and the other guys over there who fought the SEC, I guess, kind of are in, I guess, still court battles with them, are pushing back. A stable coin puts a big red target on their back in terms of the American government. Just to call back what you just said, though, about the trust layer of a CBDC. I wonder, the trust layer of AI, there's all these different protocols that are going to require a layer of trust, right? And if let's talk about the American dollar. Let's take the American dollar out, right? The American dollar, right on the front of it says, you can trust this money. Why? Because it tells me right here, in God we trust. So it's actually American fiat money is backed
That's the
by
trust layer. That's the one.
religion,
That's the one. That's the one
which,
I was looking
which,
for.
which seems a little strange. So then if you're like, okay, well, if American money can have a trust layer which is based on God, so three letters God, then a CBDC that the American government puts out by proxy would also have to be trusted. In God we trust, because it's representing a digital version of an American dollar. So I guess the question then, if you take one more sort of sideways step, is there a scenario, is AI aware of God? Is AI godless?
Oh,
And can we trust, can in God we trust that AI will, you see how I'm going, it starts to create this fallacy of logic that begins with the fallacy of logic that in God we trust to make this dollar $1, and our country have, all these special rules and guidelines about when we can go take over other countries because of manifest destiny under God, right? Can't we just say God and then go do whatever we want? That's what the Americans do. So our AI is going to be a worshiper of some God, whereas other AIs might not, right? They must be aware of religion on some level. So I'm trying to figure out, like, if this isn't God we trust, then that means I can for sure not believe in AI, because this is a bogus idea anyway. This is bankrupt.
I mean, there's so much to
Separation,
unpack
church state.
there.
Start.
You're going down like a geopolitical route in my head, because I just think about what's playing out when you think about the sort of quintessential lines that get drawn around religion, and none more stark than those in Gaza. And you think about, I just, yeah, it is happening right now. All of these things, the geopolitical climate, the space race, which we talked about, the Do Kwon, the SEC winning, the AI just explosion, and America is gearing up. I mean, we called this on the AI.gov launched back in, the end of last year, and these guys were ready to hit the ground running in 2024. Those were the vibes we were talking about. Like, it was all planned to get us right up to tax day, right up around the corner here. We're coming off the heels of spring break. Everybody's waking up, looking at how do we upgrade the system? How do we upgrade the banking system? How do we upgrade the trust layer for the political and for democracy? How are we going to trust what our elected officials tell us is them telling us this? How are we going to verify all that stuff? The technology is right in front of us. So I am super bullish heading into April. We're 11 days out from the halving and the total eclipse, just to put the cherry on top of this macro environment. It's, I don't know what to tell people, but you're not holding enough Bitcoin and crypto, and you can't trust the financial banks, the current financial system as it is today, to be the only store of value that you trust.
It's exactly right. There's a narrative about it. Just I'll pull one thing out of what you just said, because there's no way we can unpack all of this. The one thing is the eclipse. The eclipse is something that everyone has really keyed in on as being something that's, I mean, to me, it seems like outsized in its importance.
Bigger than us.
It's bigger than anybody. And there was a moment in time, I want to say during pandemic, right? There was a Path of Totality that everybody went to go see. Was that October of last year? Maybe that wasn't during pandemic. There was some point in time where people traveled around. I can't remember the exact date, to go see the eclipse, right? I had friends this time who traveled to get into the Path of Totality. Everyone talks about the economic boom that comes from an eclipse, because especially when it comes across starting in like Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, and streaks all the way up to the Northeast. Well, what happens? Traditional financial markets actually benefit because people drive and fly from all over and rent hotels and go out for dinner and like make it a thing. It's like you're like a bohemian on your jaunt looking for the eclipse, right? This is like a thing. Now, is that true of everybody in the US? No, but it's a lot of people spend a lot of money. That's one side of it. Then on the other side of it, look, lo and behold, crypto markets and traditional markets are just surging. There was a little dip and some like lack of confidence we heard. Next thing you know, we're just right back after spring break. I think the dip and lack of confidence legitimately is that people were just away from the desk. They weren't paying attention. And then we come back from the beach. Everyone's like, let the aloe get the sunburn, off. And I'm like, wait a second. What is my blank holding? Oh, quick. You got to buy more Tesla. Buy more Tesla. And even still, these stocks are going up at a time when we're, like you said, careening towards tax day that coincides with the halving, or halvening, as we like to say it online. And that's all careening towards a moment where we're going to really start to see the drumbeat of the political machine start up, right? All we hear is the eclipse is great for the economy. And then we hear, and then these presidential candidates raised a record amount of money at this fundraising event. And all we hear is the economy is great, everyone's raising money, and we're just steering towards this, what will be an insane election. And then, gosh, I wonder, will everything crater after the election just because? Is the government gonna prop up everything just so it's just, hey, it's steady as she goes all the way through November? Are you expecting some kind of a something? Because it feels like there's just been too much good for too long.
I will start where you were going with this. They're calling it the Great American Solar Eclipse. I mean, even as you paint the picture of going from Texas to Indianapolis, like it's literally covering Middle America. You could see it on the map, but that almost, that excitement, that hype radiating from the middle of America, the positivity, the energy that it brings, the shared experience. I mean, now we're talking real market psychology here, where everyone is feeling good when they get home. They're feeling one with them. And we're talking specifically about the Great American Solar Eclipse. Really interesting given that geopolitical landscape. I do think, as you were asking the question about like what to expect, I mean, right now the threat between Russia and China and the space race and the AI race, we know that Xi Jinping is 100% going to be leveraging AI technology to influence elections, to work with Putin to obfuscate the narrative. The same things we saw during the last Trump election, and Russia's meddling in that. I think now we've got to layer in China. We've got to layer in TikTok into that discussion. Hopefully, I don't even know where that thing ended up, but that was a piece of this puzzle of the American apparatus being able to somewhat limit the influence of these other governments into our own politics so that they could be more trustworthy. So yeah, I think you're right that in terms of propping things up to November, this is where the Fed has such an interesting place in this with interest rates. You get this like every 6 or 8 weeks, we're going to get a clearer picture of when they're going to lower interest rates. But I think that they are also looking to make sure that lasts past November, right? It has to last into 2025, like past January of the inauguration, like have the candidate take their seat in order to get us into 2025, where hopefully things are still, I say, flying high in America. I hope that the government gets clear about what the game-changing technology that blockchain brings to the table, the solution that it brings to all of these generative AI problems, and the fact that a lack of regulation is causing, the lack of innovation in the markets, in the ability to use blockchain technology. Right now, Coinbase is the only anointed one. And even their lawsuit just today, I don't know if you saw this, part of the original ruling is getting pulled back. They're going to reopen the SEC's case against Coinbase. I just saw this a few hours ago, so I hadn't even sent it to you yet.
They're reopening the SEC's case, saying that they're appealing effectively. They're doing one of those that they did with XRP, where they're appealing. I haven't seen that. So it's really interesting because it's part of it too. Like just to pull like the idea of the Great American Solar Eclipse, the idea of stealing narratives. We talk about stealing a narrative as it pertains to crypto and technology. But I feel like for all of our listeners, this should just be, that satisfaction moment, that point of validity, which is, no, this isn't about the American government trying to steal narratives of things like crypto and technology, right? We know they've been doing that. But this is them stealing just natural events like just natural celestial events. And the reason why you can steal it, I was just talking to someone about this, right? Eclipses haven't like been surprises for humans like for thousands of years. Ancient humans have predicted eclipses. That's something that's, a weird, strange thing to contemplate, right? For thousands of years, all humans who've walked on 2 feet and wore clothes and spoke, they have been predicting eclipses. It isn't something that is godlike or
It's
mysterious or,
predictable.
it's not something, it's totally predictable. And if you can predict something like an eclipse, if you can predict something like the Halving, if you can predict something like tax day, then you can full on own the narrative of it, because you can just tell people why they need to literally walk out of schools, put on those carbon glasses they hand out at the library, and stare at this just straight at the sun for 10-15 minutes and just feel small again. And you think, oh wow, I'm just a little fleck on this timeline that's on a little planet called Earth that I happen to sit on right now, and I feel really small. And look how cool the leaves look when the crescent shine through, and look how weird the birds talk when it comes. And then we go, well, there you go. That was brought to you by America. And we go right back to our classrooms and continue learning. I think that this whole thing is, again, one great confusion and delay. You asked it just a second ago. What about our beef with China and TikTok? What are you talking about, beef with China and TikTok? The Eclipse, man. Great American Eclipse. Just move you on to the next storyline to keep you wondering about all these open storylines, open loops. It will never, ever really get closed. It's just, will we really turn off TikTok? Will the American government actually succeed in doing that? No. They'll figure out some way, and the company ByteDance will spin off a
That's it.
subsidiary, and they'll check the boxes they need to check. They'll put the guy in Culver City, California, who's the COO, who's actually from wherever, and they'll do it all, make it look nice, but it's not going to end, and we all know it, and they know it, and everyone knows it. So we make the big stink probably just to get them to do something for us, vis-a-vis the other global powers you said, and then we on to the next thing. And right now, this week's going to be about the eclipse. What's next week? The Halving. What's the week after that? Taxes. What's the week after? Like every week we'll have just a new thing to worry about, and the government's trying to brand it all. It's just very, I don't know, disingenuous. I feel like that we don't just stop for a second and say, "Wow, celestial shit that happens is really cool." Ancient people saw it too. No, go out and get your Winnebago and go out to Indianapolis. Go stare at the sun for a while, then get some beer, then watch the NASCAR guys drive around. Like we're just branding this big time.
Yeah, no, it's a good take. I did find as you were talking, I found this from Reuters, Coinbase to face revived lawsuit by customers. So this is a federal appeals court on Friday. So this is last Friday, revived a lawsuit by Coinbase customers who accused the largest U.S. cryptocurrency exchange of illegally selling unregistered securities and failing to register as a broker-dealer. This is saying that the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan said that a lower court judge should not have relied on a December 2021 user agreement to find that Coinbase did not hold title to the tokens that the customer traded. So it comes back to those user agreements, which I got an updated one yesterday from Notion, and I almost forwarded it to you because keep your eyes peeled here as we head into tax day and throughout April and May. Look for those updated user agreements from your financial institutions. I saw Goldman Sachs was named as one of the custodians on the Ethereum ETF.
Yes.
So, their user agreement likely going to change. You'll get these weird emails from Fidelity. They're changing the rules in order to in real time in order to navigate this.
Well, that's something for all our listeners to be really aware of. It's not financial advice at all per se. But it's one of those things where those emails show up and they look like spam. It looks like someone's phishing you. But if you look carefully, it usually comes from the right domain. They're often called EULAs, EULA, end user license agreements. If you're doing something where you're purchasing a product, if you're using a service, it's a something user agreement with a different acronym. But I got one from Venmo. You've seen the Venmo one came. There's a change of how they handle stuff, which they're getting ready to hand over all their records because people don't realize Venmo is the feds. It's not just some cool app that I send money for pizza parties for my kid. They are going to send every transaction data point to the government. So if you're,
emojis on your taxes, I mean, that's what's happening.
if you're, that's what's happening, because remember this, we were laughing about this last year.
Oh,
remember?
yeah. Rocket ships.
They ruled the rocket ship, and the thumbs up was telling someone explicitly to buy this because we're going to the moon. So now everyone has to, they probably actually updated the EULAs to include emojis and include other languages. Like if you tell me in, Spanish to do this, then yeah, it still counts, even though the SEC doesn't speak Spanish or whatever. That one to me, and Goldman Sachs, when you just mentioned, remember Goldman Sachs, how they were the darling of Apple? Remember, they were the bank of Apple. But then there was the story that it didn't work out right, and they were going to change to Chase. I haven't heard anything about that. All I know is the Apple savings account has a higher return somehow. And now Goldman is like, hey, we're not even talking Bitcoin anymore. We're going Ethereum spot ETFs. We're going to just start piling into crypto, highly volatile stuff, because they all know if it's going to go digital, it's not going to be one, right? It's not a market. You told me my favorite quote. It's not a market till there's three or two.
I don't know which I said. I think you have to have three.
Yeah, I think it's three. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and
you pick whichever
XRP and CBDC and digital dollar. Like, what's it going to be? I wonder.
That does make sense to me. That then exactly they need sort of that third competitor in there. Nobody better to fill those shoes than Ripple. And then the news that he, I already mentioned it, but he was out there this morning in Forbes and CNBC talking about the crypto market cap to reach 5 trillion, says Ripple CEO. This is from 4 hours ago. So what a great little talk about writing your own narrative. Announce that you're going to put out a US based stable coin. You're going to work through the regulations. You're going to, navigate the SEC, and then a day later go out and tell the market it's gonna, the crypto price, the crypto market's gonna reach 5 trillion. That seems to me a bullish sentiment. Again, that all positivity from all sides right now to get us, I think, get the economy really, really, really humming. Hiring will be interesting too, to watch the numbers, the job numbers here, just as so many layoffs are still happening. I wonder how do those jobs get recreated? What's this fast hiring phase going to look like for the big companies? And is it all AI related? We'll see.
We'll see. And also the timing of that. Right? It's a weird thing to come out 4 hours ago, which puts you at like 30 minutes before the eclipse and saying something outlandish like 5 trillion by the end of 2025. I mean, I wonder, is it just coming out to see, is there so much noise that then no one will even hear this? Or is it, we don't want retail to hear it? I'm just coming out and saying it because when someone like Garlinghouse, who pushed back against the SEC, says something big like trillions and is bullish, that probably gets the attention of a lot of people who are interested in making money. And if you're the kind of guy who, look, FTX, and we haven't even talked about Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh, yeah.
While we were off spring breaking, everyone's favorite curly-haired genius from the Bahamian sex shanty went ahead and got a quarter of a century at some kind of, I don't know, probably medium to light security prison, but probably where you can't even have access to, the internet or phones or something, right? And he'll start appealing, he'll do whatever. But you think about that, right? That was really supposed to be the money printing machine. If you want to talk like corruption, the conspiracy of it all, like we've gone over this so many times. The horse is not just dead; it's flat in the street. But just to do the quick bullet points, Sam Bankman-Fried, also known as SBF, is dating off and on a woman named Caroline Ellison. Why is that important? The two of them went to MIT and met there. Why is that important? They both attended the MIT Media Lab class called Bitcoin, taught by Gary Gensler, who is the head of the SEC. Why is that important? Gary Gensler is Caroline Ellison's godfather. Why is that important? They were working on Project Franklin, which was the original CBDC work. They figured out how to set up FTX in the Bahamas. Why? Because you can get away with a whole bunch of dirty business in the Bahamas you can't get away with when you're in DC or Virginia or Massachusetts. Why is that important? Because what else are they doing? They were taking hundreds of millions of dollars and donating to campaigns. They had created a machine called FTX, which effectively laundered money for American government officials, both Republicans, Democrats, and probably some independents on the side. So that was the way. Well, that blew up fabulously. Okay, so we need a new way, because guess what? The election hasn't happened yet. That blew up too soon. They needed that to go all the way to this year, then blow up, because that would have been cleaner. But now you got SPF going to sit 25 years in jail, and Garlinghouse is no dummy. He's going to say, hey, there's a hole to fill here. You guys are all trying to raise money. I think XRP is a great way to raise money. And by the way, I've already been investigated by the same guys who shut down FTX, so I'm clean. It just seems like so perfectly timed. You know, when you take off your carbon fiber glasses, everybody, and look at we now have a market. We have an ETF for Bitcoin, an ETH coming, and like you said, an XRP on its heels. 3 makes the market. I just think it's too perfect timing wise.
Yeah, I would say keep your eyes on Ripple, on XRP, and what that news is going to look like. I'd say also keep your eyes on Goldman Sachs and the ETF. I did see some news coming out of Asia around, I think it was around Hong Kong, looking at the Ethereum ETF. So, that to me is heating up. And if we've gotten we get through the Bitcoin halving, and then there's a Ethereum ETF teed up. Now we've got both of these things humming. We've got the new players, the market forming around the CBDCs. Hopefully we get some regulation. It'll be guised as AI regulation. We haven't talked, we've talked a little bit about this, but I don't think it's going to be under the notion of crypto or blockchain regulation. I think it's going to come down to how you use AI to keep track of it. Like, I need, the ability to query your chain. I need an AI tool to ask it all of the questions, like in the rules, in the smart contract. I need an AI that can scan this thing. It needs to be written in an AI way. I'm riffing here, but I just don't see there being pure crypto regulation. I think it's going to go down AI, which is why Gary Gensler was screaming AI a year ago, saying AI, 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 and not talking about blockchain. But I think it will be the unlock that gets us to all the innovation using blockchain technology, for sure.
Well, that's really interesting. Actually, I like the idea that the blockchain is more of an underlying protocol. I know it's a word we use too often, but if you have the underlying protocol as infrastructure, effectively, then the regulation will need to be applied at an AI layer. And then at the AI layer, the great news is, you're so right. And I love this point, because what's the one thing about Bitcoin that's unique that nothing else has? Well, it is not a company. It's an idea and a technology. So if you are the American government and your go-to rule of engagement book, Do Kwon's a good example of this. You are a bad actor in the eyes of the American government, and you try to flee to anywhere in the world. And we can demonstrate by just rallying on people one after the other. Do Kwon, the most recent one, found in Montenegro, former head of Terra Luna, gonna get extradited nicely to South Korea, where he's a citizen, etc. But no, Uncle Sam finds you, gets you, renegotiates with South Korea and Montenegro, and they're going to go ahead and get you come right back. You cannot run away. So Bitcoin doesn't have that. You cannot call anyone. You can't go with black helicopters at night and go get them. You cannot force someone to tell you something because you know where the kids go to school. Nothing. There's no ability to terrorize or to control via conventional American military methods. So what do? Take it to the next layer. The truth layer. It turns out that if we're following your line of thinking, blockchain itself is a technology and a layer that it will never be aware of truth, because the new layer we put on top that we call AI, which is written by humans, is going to tell us the truth. And therefore, the truth is no longer what we will see on the blockchain. The truth is going to be filtered through a lens, which is called AI. And they're going to be able to query and display it as they need to. That's why I heard you say, I'm pulling it out from that. So now I feel like they found a way. The spot Bitcoin ETF market tames the fiat analog for Bitcoin. AI is going to tame and create the layer of truth. And then when you say, like I think about those quotes, I can't think of it off the top of my head who said it, but it's like people say, well, what is reality? What is truth? How do I know what's true? What is reality? And my answer is, well, reality is all that stuff that happened yesterday. Like, whatever happened yesterday actually is all our reality, and that it will now be influenced by AI, our reality, and because the humans build it, ipso facto will be influenced by the humans. I think AI, Gary Gensler, he was prescient in the sense that, yeah, you can't control technology, but we can control how we look
Well,
at
I'm
it.
going to take this to another place in terms of markets, but we spent the onset of this discussion talking about the lunar cycles being predictable, but yet the emotional impact, the psychological impact that it has on humans to make decisions. And you take that same thought process and apply it to the public markets and, you know, day traders and how people actually make money off of public stocks. And what has changed over the last 50 to 100 years is the technology that these traders can use, these black box algorithms, to then trade without the human emotion attached to the decision, that it can just be programmatic. It can be written in code, buy and sell when it makes sense. To what? To make more money. So I mean, I could see why he was screaming AI when he was talking about like financial advisors, and he didn't explicitly call out programmatic AI trading bots, but there's no reason that you and I shouldn't have an AI programmatic trading bot just able to day trade as much as we wanted it to do. Every person could have access to those same tools and technologies. The difference is, if everybody has access to those same tools and technologies, won't the market just balance out? Like, it's not, nobody, you can't win.
If everyone has it, then effectively
Right.
no one has it. So then the question then becomes, well, now if you're in the business of controlling the market, you have to just make sure, us, the American government, we have to make sure that our AI is better than or less accessible than all the rest of the AIs. The same way that, there are sophisticated computer systems that exist in people's houses, right? It would be unthinkable when I was growing up if you were to tell me that all of the people that I know who are age 10 and 8 to 10 years old would have a device that they could carry in their pocket, which could perform video editing like the Avid bays used to be when we were doing video editing back in college and stuff, where you had multiple dials and flywheels and screens and tracking. And, we weren't like cutting film and doing it all USC Film School style, but pretty darn close. It was like a big digital analog thing. Well, now all that exists. Do people go around and make like super bitchin' movies all the time and really threaten Hollywood and whatever? No, because Hollywood has even more and better stuff, right? Parallax studios and things that are inaccessible. You can carry around your iPhone and make your cool cinematic movies of kids throwing snowballs, friend, but you're not making any money off that. There's no money. So now I think about, okay, well, if there's going to be an algorithm to make every single person on their phone, it's going to dehumanize me, not in that sense, but in the sense of, well, just take your emotion out, right? Just set your little parameters and your toggles, and your little AI bot pal is going to do your trades and do your stuff, and we all do it. Well, you better believe that Gary Gensler and all his cronies at places like BlackRock and Fidelity and whatever are going to have that super computer, that super video studio version of those things, and intentionally keep themselves paced out in front of everyone else. That's something that we just know, because otherwise the American government would collapse under the weight of having 100,000 idiotic crypto billionaires who are age 20 with Dogecoin falling out of their pockets and buying sports teams. Like, there is no scenario the American government's going to allow a bunch of idiots to sell crypto and like become billionaires and disrupt the whole global financial system.
I don't know. I got a
true,
lot of
AI
good meme
is going to
coins.
keep you
I got
down.
a lot of good meme coins.
And they're watching, they're watching and they're watching and they're watching, and it's just gonna slowly be tightened down. We talked about on ramps and off ramps as it pertains to crypto, and one of the ways the government could choke, access to crypto, right? If you force people from banks and real money to kind of go through a regulated system to go online and get crypto, and then force them to sell out and to have your tax records, et cetera. As soon as you do that, okay, they tame that one part, that one sort of portion of the flow of currency, the flow of value. My question to you is, there is going to be an analog to that. the flow of value is, we see it, right? Cash on ramps, cash off ramps, they're just choking them down so that, hey, you want to do something, you want to do it right? Oh, go to Coinbase. You want to do something, do it right? You go over here. Like one or two things. Go to BlackRock, get the ETF. What's that analog for AI? Because the government and the powers that be in the US especially, are going to start to choke the on ramps and off ramps of AI, right? How do you control how people get into it, what they have access to, and what they can then export out to the real world? And you're already seeing it. Just to bring it around to an example I sent you. There's a cool website. It's cool in the sense that it's like scary cool, but it's called This Person Does Not Exist.org. And it's the URLs like this person not exist. They're just basically giving everyone now high-res templates of images of humans, faces and full bodies that are completely computer generated, programmatic generated. Imagine everyone has access to that. So everyone can make a political ad that is synthetic. If everyone can, does that mean that no one does because they all look the same and only the ones that are those weapons grade systems? Like there's like a market saturation happening, which I feel like is the chat GPT is going to be relegated to your like best brainstorming pal when you ask it what you're going to take a picture of your closet and ask you what you should wear today to really accentuate your blank. It's going to become nothing more than like our Palm Pilot because everyone's going to have it. Everyone can make a fake face of somebody. Everyone can put up a fake ad. If that's true, then maybe no one does.
Right, or only those creators who do will be the ones who are going to need blockchain in order to own the content and own the IP and be able to prove its provenance and authenticity of I was the one who created this or I sold this to this person, right? You're going to need that immutable ledger because if everybody can create everything immediately, then all the ideas in the world have already been created. Every idea that could ever have existed in humanity has now been created. I mean, that's a crazy thing to think about. It doesn't seem true when you say it, but or every possible combination of thought that could be created can be created. And therefore, the only thing that matters from a value perspective, coming back to in God we trust, at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter is, do you trust that the person who created it is who they say they are? Are they the real Picasso? Or are they the person who came up with the idea, who wrote the song? I mean, now you are starting to see, just in the past, talk about timing. You've got the music industry just in the past week screaming about the fake AI generated songs. So this repeated challenge or process that we are seeing around IP, the financial markets are driving it right now. We're not talking about intellectual property, but we are talking about ownership of stocks and securities on the blockchain and the tokenization of everything that we've already heard from Larry Fink. Bring that down to Drake. And what are these guys trying to do? And what do we know Snoop Dogg has already gotten ahead of? He's comfortable licensing his likeness out, because he has owned and he created his own digital likeness. He created his own digital twin, his own on-chain assets to then bring to market. And that is how I'm gonna leave it there. But to get to your point of we're gonna need to keep track of how these ideas get created and who creates them, because everybody can create anything instantly.
Well, just to follow that last point and maybe just put a punctuation mark on it and I love the thought process because it's very philosophical on so many levels. It's every idea. If we believe that right in this instant in time, on the day of the Great American Eclipse, if everyone was able to articulate out loud in some way, to have it documented, recorded on a ledger, an immutable ledger, their best and greatest ideas, if all 8.5 billion people in the world who are thinking, who are awake right now, whoever's awake, could put somehow that into existence, like you said, if you look at the scale of it all, well then, yeah, it'd be hard to discount that every idea in that moment has already been thought about, whatever it is that you're thinking about. So if that's true, well, it has to go back to provenance, to ownership, like you said, right? Of course, music's all up in arms because that's where they've been fighting for ownership for decades. But what are you going to need to verify and determine that the person who did create it is the creator? Well, AI is going to be needed, because even if you have a sleuth going around the internet and checking timestamps of who said what when to finally tell you, no, this is the person, this is the account who said it first, who has ownership, it would take too long and it would already be on to the next thing. But AI could do it instantly. So if AI is the layer of truth on top of a number of different businesses and different markets in our American economy, including brand new crypto, then yeah, when people in the government stand up and say, stop talking about all the other nonsense, the only thing we're talking about is AI, because all they think about is in God we trust. And they got to figure out how to make American AI effectively that same level of trust. And today it doesn't have that.
I love it. Talking about the truth layer of artificial intelligence, taking it from money to geopolitics and to the halving coming. What are your predictions as we head into post spring break? Middle of April, tax day and halving. The next time, I mean, I guess we'll get one more recording in, and then we're going to have to do an April 19th show, no doubt. Maybe go live on YouTube. Let's see what.
We'll have to go live on the halving. We got to do it. We got to go live. Yeah, I'm thinking that we're going to see some. If there's not a whole bunch of people moving a whole bunch of money, let's not forget the United States government just last week moved thousands of Bitcoins from one of those DOJ wallets, did some tests. Everyone's preparing their various, wallets and their storages for what's coming. Will we see some incredible dip and then rise? Probably not. I think it's going to be sort of a steady march. What I'm really holding on to hope for is that at some point between now and call it July 4th, we'll start to then once again, alongside hearing the political march, more about alien technology and about like ancients that came before us, because someone's going to have to start explaining the Bitcoin halving to people in a way that isn't what they've been saying today. And I think it's never going to resonate, and they're going to need a lot of confusion and delay to kind of like cover it over as we continue to rolling into the election cycle. So I'm hoping we got to do at least one or two shows between now and the halving, but look forward to talking
All right,
about
sir.
it.
We will leave it there. We'll do it again soon.
Talk to you later, man.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Off the Record, On the Rocks. Join us next week for more news and all things Web3. Check, please.